Welcome back. We've got summer weather. The 4th of July coming up in just a matter of days, and a lot of folks will be spending time out on the water. There are several safety tips to keep in mind when you're in a boat. TV6's Andrew Lacombe learns more from the U.S. Coast Guard in Marquette. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, Vicki. Happy Friday. We are at the U.S. Coast Guard station on Marquette's Lower Harbor. Behind me, you can see the harbor. It's a little foggy down here this morning, but we're thankful there's no rain, so we can be outside to talk about boating safety. Now, of course, a lot to keep in mind if you head out on the water, but probably the most important thing is always having a life jacket on board for everyone who is on your boat. Other things to keep in mind, checking the weather before you head out on the water. Of course, you can always check in with Sean, Carl, and Dustin or online to be sure that the weather is safe before you head out, because you don't want to be caught out on any body of water and any kind of storm. Also, another reminder that we hear a lot is no alcohol in mixing with boating. Driving a boat and alcohol do not mix. And also coming up this morning, we're going to be talking about how the Coast Guard can do a free safety check on your boat. So we'll be learning more about that throughout the morning, because we'll be joined by members of the U.S. Coast Guard down here at their station. So we'll be talking about boating safety all morning in the morning show. We'll head back to the studio for now, though, live in Marquette. Andrew Lacombe, TV6 News.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Looking forward to hear about that. And I'll tell you, welcome back. It's 6:12, 5:12 Central Time. You know, when it comes to boating safety, planning ahead is a big key to making it a lot more fun. This morning, Andrew Lacombe is at the U.S. Coast Guard station in Marquette to tell us a little bit more about how we can play it safe on the water.
Good morning, Vicki. That's right. I'm on a boat now at the Coast Guard station down here in Marquette's Lower Harbor, and I'm joined now by Petty Officer Kuhn, who's going to tell us about some things to keep in mind as people head out in the water. So tell me, what's the first thing people should keep in mind?
Well, the thing they should keep in mind is life jacket and where it's at. It's not a requirement to wear the life jacket. However, your child 13 and under, you have to have it on at all times. We recommend that everybody wear it. It's kind of like a safety belt in a car, but it's a requirement to wear it in a car. It's not a requirement to wear it in a boat, but you should be wearing it at all times. 85% of deaths happen because people are not wearing life jackets.
Okay, now another big safety issue to think about is drinking and boating. I mean, do they mix, and how do you enforce that?
It's kind of, people always drink and boat. It kind of goes hand in hand this summer. Boating under the influence is a thing that happens all the time, and it's something that law enforcement is cracking down on. In Michigan, it's 0.1. In every other state, it's 0.08. And something that the Coast Guard enforces a lot with the DNR and other agencies.
Okay, so do you stop people when they're out on the water and kind of check? Is it similar to a traffic stop that people are used to?
It's very similar to a traffic stop. People will come on board and do a safety inspection, and if alcohol is detected, you could be subject to fines or arrest.
Okay, now you can do some. We're going to talk about safety things on your boat coming up in the next half hour. But what do you do? What can you do as a service to people to check out their boat and make sure it's safe?
Well, actually, we have what's called a Coast Guard auxiliary inspection, and they'll come. It's all free. They'll come on your boat, and they'll do an inspection. They'll give you a sticker as long as your boat's good to go, and that sticker kind of helps you out because we'll see it and recognize it as that you've been inspected by the Coast Guard already. So it may keep you from getting stopped in the future.
All right, now just one last question. We're out on this boat here at the Lower Harbor. Tell me about this boat and what you use it for and what it can do.
This is a brand new Coast Guard 45-foot medium response boat. This boat's used for search and rescue and law enforcement. It's very capable. It can go up to 8-foot seas and 30-knot winds. It's one of our primary assets here at Coast Guard Station Marquette.
So you cover a wide stretch of the Lake Superior coast. How fast can you get places?
We cover from Coast Guard Station Marquette covers from the Huron Islands to Grand Marais. It could take up to almost 2 hours to get up to Grand Marais if there's someone in distress.
Okay, but this is something that's pretty capable of getting there
right.
Fast as anyone can. Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and we'll be coming back here later on with some more safety tips. But so for now, we'll head back to the studio live in Marquette. Andrew Lacombe, TV6 News.
All right, thank you very much, Andrew. And as we get ready for
the weather warms up, and with the 4th of July holiday ahead, many people will be spending time on a boat. And there are several safety tips to keep in mind when you're out on the water. And for more, we check in with TV6's Andrew Lacombe from the U.S. Coast Guard in Marquette. Andrew?
Hey Greg, we're on a Coast Guard boat. Now this is one of their patrol boats. It's a pretty impressive vessel. It's 45 feet long and it can cut through waves up to 8 feet high and go through 30-knot winds. It's jet driven and diesel powered and is actually built down at Marquette Marine. So some pretty cool information there about this Coast Guard boat. And I'm joined now by Petty Officer Kuhn telling us more about boater safety. Earlier we were talking about the importance of having a life jacket and so, but first I just want to know more about this boat. You know, how often is it out on the water?
This boat's out pretty much as long as there's not ice in the water. It's going to be out moving. It moves 24 hours a day sometimes, and it'll go out for long search and rescue cases.
Okay, now back to boating safety. We were talking about life jackets and alcohol on boats, you know, thinking about motorized boats, but what about people who are out paddling this summer on the water?
Paddle boards and kayaks have just become very, very popular because of their low cost, and we've seen great trends in upward deaths just because of how much it's kind of exploded, the sport has. Actually, 70% of those drownings that I talked about earlier on were in boats less than 21 feet of length, so that is our target area, is our stand-up paddle boards and our kayaks.
What should people keep in mind, like, if they're going to head out and paddle?
It's not a requirement to wear a life jacket on a kayak or a stand-up paddleboard, but it is a requirement to have one on board, and we highly recommend that everybody wear one.
Okay, and now what are some things people should keep in mind just if they're in any kind of danger out on the water?
Always keep in mind of the weather and just the water temperature. Lake Superior itself never really heats up that fast, so your time of survival in the water isn't all that great to begin with. And also be aware of if you have cell phone coverage, and if you're going to be operating where you don't have cell phone coverage, a VHF-FM radio is a good tool to have. It alerts the Coast Guard or alerts local authorities that you're in distress, and everybody around you that you're in distress as well.
So besides life jackets, what should people have on their boat as far as safety gear?
Every vessel of a different length is required different things, but just kind of the bare minimums are flares, which do expire after 3 years, a life jacket, which is wearable for each person on board, a throwable PFD, which is a Type 4, which can be readily accessible to throw somebody if somebody falls overboard, and just a horn and a fire extinguisher. Those are your bare minimum for your smallest vessel. Now, as you go longer in length, there are different requirements, and we urge people to check with the Coast Guard and local authorities to find out what those requirements are.
Yeah, if you have any questions about their boats or about any safety, they can always check with you guys down here.
Absolutely. They can call the Coast Guard station, and we'll walk them through exactly what they need.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. And one thing we kind of touched on earlier was the importance of checking the weather before you head out. You can always check with any of our meteorologists because, hey, we know the weather is always changing like it's been this morning. It was foggier, then it warmed up, but now the fog is back and it's a little cooler, but I can't complain much because it's not snowing. So not complaining, I'm just observing. We'll head it back to the studio now, live in Marquette. Andrew Lacombe, TV6 News.
Thank you, Andrew.